Welcome to the Nostalgia Archive. Tonight, we will be visiting the forgotten digital landscapes of the 2000s internet. A time before the infinite scroll, when the web was a collection of distinct destinations, visited with intention, patience, and a sense of genuine discovery. Number 1 begins with the art of the away message. Long before the era of constant connectivity and the curated status update, there existed the instant messenger away message. It was a passive-aggressive art form, a digital signal flare sent out into the void of the buddy list. Crafting the perfect message was a ritual that required deep contemplation. It was often a cryptic song lyric, stripped of its context, intended to confuse friends or signal heartbreak to a specific crush who might be watching from behind their own screen. The text was formatted carefully, perhaps in neon green Comic Sans against a black background, or fading from red to blue. Leaving your computer was not just an act of stepping away, it was a performance. You would set the message, leave the beige tower of your PC humming in the corner, and hope that when you returned, the flashing orange tab at the bottom of the screen awaited you, signaling that your silence had been noticed and that someone, somewhere, had reached out to ask what was wrong. Number 2 explores the architecture of Myspace. Before social media became a streamlined, uniform feed, it was a chaotic, customizable canvas known as Myspace. This was likely the first time you ever encountered HTML code, copying and pasting raw data to force your digital identity into existence. The page was a sensory overload, a reflection of the teenage mind. Backgrounds were tiled images of dark stars, or emo aesthetics that made the text nearly unreadable. But the defining feature was the music. You had the power to force every visitor to listen to a low bitrate version of your favorite song the moment the page loaded. It created a specific, jagged rhythm to browsing. You would click a profile, and suddenly, a blast of pop-punk or hip-hop would stutter through your speakers as the page struggled to load. It was a declaration of taste, a digital bedroom where the posters on the wall were interactive, and the top 8 friends list was a political minefield that could ruin real-world friendships with a simple drag-and-drop rearrangement of avatars. Number 3 recalls the risk of Limewire. In the early 2000s, acquiring music was an exercise in patience and digital Russian roulette. The interface of Limewire, with its lime green wireframe logo, promised the world's library of audio at your fingertips, but it demanded a heavy price in trust. You would type in the name of a song, often misspelling it on purpose to find more results, and watch as the download bar crept forward, pixel by agonizing pixel. The connection speeds were often so slow that a single 3-minute track could take an hour to arrive. You sat there, mesmerized by the estimated time remaining, which fluctuated wildly. And yet, the true nostalgia lies in the uncertainty. When the file finally finished, you would double-click with held breath. Would it be the song you asked for? Or would it be a garbled noise, a completely different track mislabeled by a stranger? Or worse, a virus that would crash the family computer? It was a wild frontier where the reward of a new song felt earned through risk and waiting. Number 4 is the Winamp visualizer. Listening to music on a computer in this era meant engaging with Winamp, a media player that felt more like a piece of high-tech machinery than a software application. It was infinitely skinnable. You could make the player look like brushed aluminium, alien slime, or a wood-paneled dashboard. But the true hypnosis came from the visualizer. As your MP3s played, files likely ripped from your own CDs, the screen would erupt into a psychedelic display of shifting fractals and oscillating waves. These geometric shapes pulsed in perfect synchronization with the bass and treble, creating a private light show in your darkened room. It turned the act of listening to music into a visual trance. You could stare at those shifting colors for hours, the milk drop effects swirling like digital oil in water, allowing your mind to wander as the playlists cycled through. It was a specific kind of digital zen, a screensaver for the conscious mind that connected the auditory experience directly to the optic nerve. Number 5 brings us to the Flash animation portal. Before video streaming became instant and high definition, entertainment on the web was vector-based and gritty. Sites like Newgrounds and Homestar Runner were the television stations of the internet generation. Because bandwidth was precious, these animations were simple, relying on flat colors and clever writing rather than complex visuals. Loading these cartoons was a distinct memory. You watched a preloader bar fill up, often accompanied by a looping, catchy soundbite or a mini-game to keep you occupied while the main attraction buffered. The humor was often bizarre, absurdist, and insulated, creating a lexicon of inside jokes that only made sense if you had visited the same URL. Watching Homestar Runner wasn't just consuming content, it was participating in a niche culture. The characters had no voice actors in the traditional sense, just creators speaking into cheap microphones. Yet they built entire worlds that felt tangible and alive, restricted only by the file size limit and the capabilities of the Macromedia Flash player. Number 6 is the Ask Jeeves butler. Before the search bar became a stark, minimalist white box that anticipated your every thought, the internet felt like a vast, disorganized library that required a guide. Ask Jeeves personified this need. The mascot, a well-dressed valet in a sharp suit, promised to fetch the answers to your questions. There was a charming innocence to the interface. You were encouraged to type in full, grammatical sentences, asking the butler a question as if he were a real person. "Where is the nearest pizza place?" you might type. And though the technology was primitive and the results often irrelevant, the presence of the character made the digital void feel less lonely. It represented a time when we tried to map human metaphors onto digital tools, treating the search engine not as an algorithm, but as a helpful assistant. The site was often cluttered with colorful icons and slow-loading graphics, a far cry from the utilitarian efficiency of today, but it carried a warmth that the modern web has largely scrubbed away. Number 7 remembers the Encarta Encyclopedia. For a brief window of time, the sum of human knowledge was not found in the cloud, but on a set of 4 CD-ROMs in a plastic jewel case. Microsoft Encarta was the authority of the household desktop. The experience of using it was tactile and auditory. When you navigated its menus, there were distinct, woody clicking sounds and ambient noises that made you feel as though you were walking through a museum. It was a multimedia miracle. You didn't just read about the moon landing, you watched a grainy, postage stamp-sized video of it. You didn't just read about the cello, you clicked an icon to hear a 3-second sample of a bow drawing across strings. For students of the 2000s, the mind maze game included within the software was the ultimate distraction, a trivia dungeon crawler that tricked you into learning history while you wandered through a pre-rendered castle. It was a self-contained internet, a garden of facts that required no phone line to access, safe and finite. Number 8 is the MSN Messenger nudge. While other chat clients were about text, MSN Messenger introduced a physicality to digital conversation that has never been replicated. The nudge was a feature designed to cut through the noise. If a friend was ignoring you, or if the conversation lulled, you could press a button that would physically shake their chat window on their screen, accompanied by a jarring, rhythmic sound effect. It was the digital equivalent of grabbing someone by the shoulders. It added a layer of chaotic energy to late-night chats. Alongside the nudge were winks, gigantic, intrusive animations that would take over the entire screen, playing a sound clip and forcing the recipient to pay attention. A kissing pair of lips, a laughing man, or a smashing guitar would erupt over your work. It was messy, loud, and undeniably present. It proved that we didn't just want to type words to each other. We wanted to be felt, to reach through the wires and shake the monitor of the person on the other end. Number 9 visits the GeoCities neighborhood. Before the web was centralized into a few major platforms, it was a sprawling suburbia of personal homepages hosted on GeoCities. These sites were categorized into neighborhoods based on interest: Hollywood for film, Silicon Valley for tech, giving the internet a sense of geography. The aesthetic of a GeoCities page is instantly recognizable to anyone who was there. It was a collage of passion and bad design. You would find tiling backgrounds of starry skies or brick walls, bright yellow text that was impossible to read, and the ubiquitous under construction GIF featuring a digging workman or a spinning yellow sign. There were guest books where visitors could sign their names, creating a permanent record of who had stopped by. MIDI music files would autoplay in the background, tinny, synthesized versions of popular songs. These pages were raw and unpolished, built by amateurs who just wanted to carve out a tiny corner of cyberspace to talk about their cats, their poetry, or their favorite video games. Number 10 concludes this batch with the desktop pet. In the solitude of the 2000s desktop, where we spent hours staring at the Windows XP Bliss wallpaper, we often sought companionship in the form of small, downloadable programs, the desktop pet. These were simple virtual creatures, a sheep that walked across the top of your active Windows, a purple ape named Bonsai, or a paperclip with eyes. They lived outside the boundaries of any specific application, roaming the desktop as if it were a physical room. They added a layer of life to the static environment of the operating system. You could drag them with your mouse, feed them digital snacks, or simply watch them sleep in the corner while you did your homework. While many of them were later revealed to be adware or resource hogs that slowed the computer to a crawl, in the moment, they were friends. They represented the novelty of the era, the idea that the computer wasn't just a tool for work, but a terrarium where digital life could flourish, keeping you company in the glow of the CRT. Welcome to the Nostalgia Archive. Tonight, we will continue exploring the forgotten digital landscapes of the 2000s internet. We return to a time when our digital footprints were static, our communities were text-based, and the World Wide Web felt like a vast, unmapped frontier waiting to be charted. Number 11 illuminates the forum signature. In the golden age of message boards, your identity was defined not just by your username, but by the rectangular canvas attached to the bottom of every post you made. The SIG was a badge of honor, often far larger and more complex than the post itself. Users would spend hours in Photoshop or commission artists in signature shops to create these digital banners. They were cluttered masterpieces of 2000s design, scan lines, grunge brushes, renders of anime characters or video game soldiers, and glowing outer glows. But it wasn't just about the graphics. It was about the accumulation of data. You would stack user bars, small, pill-shaped images that declared your allegiance to specific bands, consoles, or political ideologies. You might include a ticker counting down the days until a game, release, or a scrolling marquee of lyrics. Viewing a thread wasn't just reading text, it was walking through a gallery of these banners, repeating over and over, turning a simple conversation into a visual cacophony that stretched the page length and tested the patience of your dial-up connection. Number 12 remembers the physicality of MapQuest. Before the era of the smartphone, where a blue dot guides us in real time with turn-by-turn voice commands, navigation required a printer. MapQuest was the oracle of travel. You would sit at your desktop days before a road trip, typing in the starting address and the destination, and wait for the route to generate. The result was not a fluid experience, but a rigid set of instructions. Turn left in 0.4 miles. You had to print these directions out on standard white paper, often resulting in 3 or 4 pages of text and a pixelated, zoomed-out map that was barely legible. The nostalgia lies in the tension of the journey. You sat in the passenger seat, holding the warm stack of papers, acting as the co-pilot. If you missed a turn, there was no recalculating voice to save you. There was only the silence of the car, the panic of the driver, and the frantic shuffling of paper as you tried to retrace your steps using only the static, printed words of a computer that was miles away. Number 13 is the ritual of burning CDs. In the 2000s, the playlist was not a drag-and-drop abstraction. It was a physical object that required labor to produce. The CDR, compact disc recordable, was the blank canvas of a generation. The process was industrial and sensory. You would curate your tracklist in software like Nero Burning ROM or Windows Media Player, watching the megabyte counter closely to ensure you didn't exceed the 700 meg limit, roughly 80 minutes of music. When you clicked burn, the computer would transform. The disk drive would spin up with a sound like a jet engine taking off, vibrating the entire desk. You walked on eggshells during this process. Opening another program might cause a buffer underrun, ruining the disk and turning it into a useless coaster. The smell of warm plastic would drift from the tower. When the tray finally ejected, the disk was warm to the touch. You would then take a permanent marker, usually a Sharpie, and scrawl the title onto the silver surface, finalizing a mixtape that was now etched permanently into physical reality, ready for the car stereo. Number 14 explores the economy of Neopets. For many, this was the first introduction to stock markets, inflation, and HTML coding. Neopets was not merely a game about feeding virtual creatures. It was a sprawling, immersive civilization. You didn't just log in, you worked. You visited the giant omelette daily for free food. You played games to earn Neopoints, and you obsessively refreshed the shops to catch rare items before they sold out. The site taught a generation the basics of web design through the customization of shops. To sell your items, you had to build a storefront, and to make it stand out, you had to learn the raw code of the internet. You would copy and paste snippets of CSS to change the background to a tiling image of clouds or fire, add music, and change the cursor to a sparkling wand. It was a capitalistic training ground disguised as a pet simulator, where the wealthiest players were those who understood the mechanics of the market and the syntax of the code, creating a distinct hierarchy that felt incredibly serious to the children navigating it. Number 15 recalls the text-based walkthrough. Before video tutorials and Let's Play content saturated the web, being stuck in a video game meant consulting the monks of the internet at GameFAQs. These guides were triumphs of ASCII art and Courier font. When you loaded a walkthrough, you were met with a wall of monochromatic text, stretching endlessly down the page. There were no screenshots to show you where to go. There were only words. The authors, often using handles like Dark Slayer or Cloudstrife, wrote with a distinct voice, part technical manual, part diary. They would use keyboard characters to draw elaborate title cards at the top of the document, intricate logos made entirely of slashes and pipes. Finding the information you needed was a skill in itself. You had to use Control F to search for specific keywords like water temple or boss key. It was a literary experience, forcing you to visualize the solution through someone else's description, turning the act of beating a game into a collaborative effort between you and a stranger's text file. Number 16 is the pre-algorithm YouTube. When YouTube first emerged, it was a lawless, chaotic repository of video files, completely devoid of the slick, polished influencer culture of today. The aesthetic was defined by the webcam, grainy, low-light footage shot in bedrooms, often with the date and time stamped in the corner. There was no algorithm feeding you content designed to keep you addicted. You had to hunt for it. The rating system was not a binary thumbs up or thumbs down, but a 5-star scale, allowing for nuance that has since been lost. The videos were raw, cats playing pianos, teenagers lip-syncing in front of posters, and shaky footage of backyard stunts. The site felt like a community access television station for the entire planet. The limit was 10 minutes, a constraint that forced brevity. To watch a video was to stare at the buffering spiral, a spinning circle of dots that paused the action every few seconds, reminding you that video on the internet was a miracle that the infrastructure was barely ready to support. Number 17 visits the Habbo Hotel pool. In the realm of isometric social networks, Habbo Hotel stood as a towering monument to teen socialization. It was a virtual hotel where you navigated a small, pixelated avatar through lobbies, guest rooms, and nightclubs. But the cultural epicenter was the public pool. It was here that the limitations of the chat interface created a strange, robotic dialect. Because of the strict swear filters and the chaotic nature of dozens of people typing at once, conversation was often reduced to simple, repeated phrases. The pool was a place of organized chaos, famous for the pool is closed raids, where users with identical avatars would block the ladder, forming a digital picket line. It was a space where status was visual. If you had HC, Habbo Club, membership, your avatar had better clothes and dances, creating a visual class system. It was a chat room given spatial dimensions, where you didn't just talk to someone, you stood next to them, blocked their path, or danced on a table, adding a layer of physical comedy to online interaction. Number 18 is the randomness of StumbleUpon. In an era before the infinite scroll of social media feeds dictated our consumption, StumbleUpon offered a button that served as a portal to the unknown. It was a browser toolbar with a simple premise. Click Stumble, and the internet would whisk you away to a random website based on your vague interests. It was the ultimate cure for boredom, a digital roulette wheel. One click might take you to a photographer's portfolio in Iceland. The next might drop you into a flash game about physics, or a recipe for baking bread, or a conspiracy theory page with spinning skulls. There was no continuity, only discovery. It made the internet feel infinite and surprising. You weren't trapped in a bubble of content similar to what you had already liked. You were constantly being thrown into the deep end of the web's weirdness. It was a passive form of surfing, a guided tour where the tour guide was drunk and blindfolded, showing you the corners of the internet that you would never, ever have found on your own. Number 19 remembers the chain email. Before viral tweets and shared memes, the primary vector for internet folklore was the chain email. These messages arrived in your inbox with subject lines written in all caps, laden with exclamation marks. Forward, forward, forward. Read this or bad luck. They were the digital equivalent of campfire ghost stories. They told tales of kidney thieves, haunted dolls, or Bill Gates promising to send you money if you forwarded the email to 10 friends. The text was often formatted in a rainbow of colors, with Comic Sans font and large pixelated attachments of blessed angels or spooky ghosts. There was a genuine superstitious pressure to comply. The email would threaten you with years of bad luck if you broke the chain, or promise that your crush would call you tonight if you continued it. It was a primitive form of social proof, a way of seeing who among your friends was gullible enough or anxious enough to hit forward and perpetuate the digital myth for another cycle. Number 20 concludes this batch with the desktop media player skins. In the 2000s, software was not obsessed with minimalism or blending in. It wanted to stand out. Windows Media Player and Real Player were the centerpieces of entertainment, and they were aggressively stylized. The default corporate look could be shed in favor of skins, downloadable interfaces that completely radically changed the shape and layout of the player. You might choose a skin that looked like a rusted steampunk gauge, a futuristic alien head where the eyes were the play and pause buttons, or a jagged shard of green glass. These skins were often usability nightmares. Buttons were hidden in obscure corners, and volume sliders were curved and difficult to drag. But usability was secondary to expression. Your media player was a piece of furniture on your desktop, and customizing it was a way of claiming ownership over the machine. It turned the simple act of listening to an MP3 into a sci-fi experience, where the interface itself was as much a part of the art as the music playing through it. Number 21 explores the hypnosis of the 3D screensaver. In an era when leaving a monitor displaying a static image risked burning the phosphor of the screensaver was a functional necessity that became an art form. The most iconic of these was the 3D maze. To watch it was to be a passenger in a frantic, first-person journey through a labyrinth of red brick walls. The camera moved with a mechanical smoothness, turning sharp 90-degree corners, floating over grey floors, and occasionally flipping upside down. It was a lonely, infinite corridor. Sometimes you would encounter a low-resolution image of a rat or a floating geometric shape, but you never found the exit. For the more structurally inclined, there was the 3D pipes screensaver, where digital plumbing endlessly generated itself in neon colors, joints connecting to pipes until the entire black void of the screen was filled with a complex, impossible infrastructure. These weren't just idle animations, they were digital daydreams, mesmerizing patterns that we would stare at, tranced out, waiting for the mouse to move and break the spell. Number 22 is the under construction GIF. The early web was a place of perpetual optimism, a digital landscape that was always being built but never quite finished. This state of being was symbolized by the ubiquitous under construction graphic. It was usually a small, pixelated animation of a yellow and black barricade, a blinking traffic light, or a tiny cartoon workman endlessly digging a hole with a shovel. Placing this image on your website was a plea for patience. It told visitors that while the links didn't work and the images were broken, you had a grand vision that was coming soon. It represented the amateur spirit of the era. Websites were not polished products launched by corporations. They were living documents, handcrafted by teenagers in their bedrooms who were learning HTML as they went. The presence of that digging workman meant that a real person was behind the screen, struggling with code, promising that if you just came back next week, this empty white page would be transformed into something magnificent. Number 23 recalls the tension of the helicopter game. Before the App Store brought high-fidelity gaming to our pockets, the browser window was the console, and Flash was the engine. Among the thousands of games hosted on sites like Miniclip or Addicting Games, few induced as much stress as the helicopter game. The graphics were primitive, a solid green copter against a black background, navigating a jagged, scrolling green tunnel. The controls were deceptively simple. Click the left mouse button to fly up, release it to fall. Yet, the physics were unforgiving. A single pixel of error meant an instant explosion. The soundscape was minimal, dominated by the frantic clicking of your own mouse and the deep sigh of frustration when you crashed. It was played in school computer labs across the world, usually in a small window, minimized quickly when the teacher walked by. It was a test of rhythm and focus, a mesmerizing loop of failure and restarting, where the only reward was seeing the numbers of your distance score tick slightly higher than they did the attempt before. Number 24 is the sound of a skipping CD. While this is a physical object, its contents were born from the internet. The music we painstakingly downloaded and burned onto discs was fragile. The burned CDR was prone to the skip, a distinct, jarring glitch that became the soundtrack of 2000s car rides. It wasn't just silence, it was a rhythmic stutter. The laser would lose its tracking on a scratch, and the song would lock into a loop, repeating a fraction of a second of audio, chick, 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 indefinitely. It was a sound that induced immediate panic. You would frantically eject the disc, holding it up to the light to inspect the silver surface for the fatal scratch. We developed folk remedies to fix them, smearing toothpaste or rubbing bananas on the plastic in a desperate attempt to fill the fissures and save the mix. That skipping sound was the heartbeat of a dying medium, a reminder that the digital files we worked so hard to acquire could be destroyed by a single moment of carelessness in the physical world. Number 25 examines the void of Yahoo Answers. When the search engine failed to provide a direct result, we turned to the hive mind. Yahoo Answers was a community built on the premise that if you asked a question, a stranger would know the answer. The interface was a distinctive purple and green. The questions ranged from the heartbreakingly sincere to the bafflingly incoherent. It was a place where students asked for homework help and received incorrect history, and where hypochondriacs sought medical diagnoses from teenagers. The grammar was often atrocious, leading to legendary memes of misspelling, but the intent was earnest. The system gamified knowledge. Users competed for the best answer badge, which would turn their response a celebratory green. It was the Wild West of information, a place where confident ignorance often masqueraded as fact. Reading through the archives now feels like walking through a room of people shouting into the dark, hoping that someone, anyone, is listening and willing to type back. Number 26 is the beige desktop microphone. Before built-in laptop mics and studio-quality USB condensers, voice communication on the internet relied on a specific, cheap piece of hardware. It was a thin, beige plastic stick that plugged into the pink audio jack on the back of your tower. The base was flimsy, often taped to the desk to keep it from falling over. The neck was a flexible, ribbed plastic that you could twist and bend, inevitably wearing it out until it drooped like a wilted flower. The audio quality was atrocious. It captured not just your voice, but the hum of your computer fan, the click of your keyboard, and the dog barking 3 rooms away. Using it required a constant adjustment of gain settings in the Windows control panel. It was the tool of the first generation of VoIP users, the hardware that facilitated late-night raids in World of Warcraft and awkward conversations on Skype, transmitting our voices across the world through a haze of static and electronic hiss. Number 27 remembers the citation needed of Wikipedia. In the 2000s, Wikipedia was a battleground. To students, it was a miracle, a centralized repository of all human knowledge that could write your essay for you. To teachers, it was the enemy. Do not cite Wikipedia was the mantra of the decade. The site itself looked different then. It was rawer, the famous puzzle globe logo slightly less polished. The articles were often shorter, and the Edit tab at the top of the page was a tempting button that allowed anyone to vandalize history for a few minutes before a moderator corrected it. We learned to navigate the citation needed tags, the little blue numbers that led to dead links at the bottom of the page. It represented a shift in how we perceived truth. Truth was no longer what was printed in a bound book, but what the consensus of the internet agreed upon at that specific moment. It was a living document, constantly shifting, and we were the first generation to learn how to filter its infinite, unverified stream. Number 28 is the Myspace camera angle. The rise of social media created the need for the self-portrait, but without front-facing cameras, we had to improvise. This gave birth to a specific photographic aesthetic. You would hold your digital camera, usually a silver Canon or Sony Cybershot, high above your head, arm fully extended, angling the lens down at your face. This angle, known universally as the Myspace angle, was designed to hide the camera itself and accentuate the eyes. Because we couldn't see the screen, taking a selfie was a process of trial and error. You would snap a photo, turn the camera around to check the LCD screen, delete it, and try again. The flash was almost always on, washing out your skin to a ghostly white and creating a high contrast, overexposed look that became the defining style of the era. It was the first time we began to consciously curate our digital appearance, learning the geometry of vanity through the lens of a 3-megapixel point-and-shoot. Number 29 explores the psychology of the progress bar. In a time of slower bandwidth and hard drive transfers, we spent a significant portion of our lives watching a rectangular bar fill with color. The Windows XP progress bar, with its green segments that looked like little glowing emeralds, was a constant companion. But it was also a liar. The estimated time remaining was a source of comedy and despair. It would jump from 30 seconds to 45 minutes in the blink of an eye, then stall at 99% for an eternity. We developed a superstition around it. You couldn't move the mouse or breathe too heavily, lest you disturb the transfer and cause the computer to freeze. We would sit and stare at the animation of papers flying from one folder to another, hypnotized by the slow accumulation of data. It taught us a specific kind of digital patience, a resignation to the fact that the computer was working at its own pace, and we were merely observers, waiting for the permission to continue. Number 30 concludes this batch with the CRT degauss button. The monitors of the 2000s were heavy, glass-fronted boxes that operated on magnetic fields. Over time, these fields would build up, causing the colors on the screen to discolor or warp. The solution was the degauss button. Pressing it was one of the most satisfying tactile experiences in computing history. When you pushed the button, the monitor would emit a loud electric thwump sound, like a heavy spring being released. The image on the screen would violently shake and wobble, the colors shifting in a psychedelic wave of purple and green before snapping back into crystal clarity. It felt like you were detonating a small bomb inside the machine to clear the pipes. It was a physical maintenance ritual, a moment where you could feel the raw power of the electricity coursing through the device. It was a reminder that the internet wasn't just software, it was being beamed into your eyes by a massive, vibrating vacuum tube that required a magnetic explosion to keep it running true. Number 31 enters the golden age of webcomics. Before social media fragmented our attention, we had the daily visit. Central to this ritual were webcomics like Penny Arcade, Control, Alt, Delete, and Mega Tokyo. These sites were the Sunday funnies of the digital generation, but unrestricted by editorial oversight. The humor was niche, often centered around gaming culture, gamers, and tech frustrations, creating a distinct us versus them mentality. Following a comic was a commitment. You didn't scroll past it, you navigated to the URL, clicked the next button, and read the author's blog post below the strip, which was often longer than the comic itself. The art styles evolved in real time. If you clicked the first button, you could see the crude, early drawings of the creator compared to their current polish. It was a serialized narrative that unfolded over years. We bought the t-shirts, we quoted the punchlines in forums, and we waited patiently for the Monday, Wednesday, Friday update schedule, refreshing the page at midnight to be the first to see the new panel. Number 32 feels the texture of the trackball mouse. While the optical mouse eventually conquered the desk, the trackball was a distinct, bold alternative favored by a specific kind of PC user. It looked like a piece of sci-fi equipment, a large, heavy sphere, often bright red or speckled blue, embedded in a stationary grey casing. Operating it required a completely different muscle memory. You didn't move your arm, you moved your thumb. There was a rhythmic, rolling sound as you spun the ball to fling the cursor across the screen. But the true nostalgia lies in the maintenance. The trackball was a magnet for grime. Every few weeks, the movement would become gritty. You had to pop the heavy ball out of its socket and clean the 3 small rollers inside, which would be caked in a layer of grey dust and skin oils. It was a gross, yet deeply satisfying ritual of computer hygiene, peeling away the debris to restore the smooth, frictionless spin that made you feel like a commander piloting a starship. Number 33 visits the archives of fanfiction.net. In the 2000s, if you weren't ready to let go of a book or TV show, you went here. The site's design was a utilitarian purple and white, a library of the unauthorized. This was the testing ground for a generation of writers. The stories were categorized by fandom, and navigating them required learning a complex lexicon of tags. AU for alternate universe, OOC for out of character, and the dreaded lemon, warning for adult content. The stories themselves were raw and unfiltered. Every chapter began with a mandatory disclaimer. I do not own these characters, please don't sue. Authors would leave frantic notes in bold text at the top of the page, apologizing for late updates due to school exams or grounding. It was a community built on pure passion, where feedback came in the form of reviews that authors begged for at the bottom of every post. It was messy, often melodramatic, but it was a place where millions of people learned that they were allowed to rewrite the stories they loved. Number 34 is the trauma of the scary maze game. Trust on the early internet was fragile, and nothing shattered it quite like the Screamer. The most famous vector for this was a simple flash game requiring mouse precision. You were presented with a crude blue path on a black background and asked to guide a small dot to the red goal without touching the walls. The first 2 levels were easy, lulling you into a state of deep, quiet concentration. You leaned in close to the monitor, your eyes inches from the glass, holding your breath to keep your hands steady. Then, in the middle of level 3, the screen would violently cut to a picture of the possessed girl from The Exorcist, accompanied by a piercing, ear-splitting scream. It was a jump scare designed to humiliate. It was a rite of passage. Once you had been tricked, you immediately called a friend or sibling into the room, asked them to try this hard level, and stood back to watch them suffer the same heart-stopping terror. Number 35 remembers the digital blasphemy wallpaper. Customizing your desktop background was the primary way to decorate your digital room, and one artist defined the aesthetic of the era: digital blasphemy. If you saw a computer monitor in the early 2000s, there was a high probability it was displaying one of Ryan Bliss's 3D renders. These weren't photos, they were procedurally generated dreamscapes. Fluorescent mushrooms glowing in a dark cave, tropical islands floating in a void, or sunset canyons on alien planets. They were rendered in what felt like high definition, 1024 by 768. The images had a specific glossy texture that screamed future. Having the paid version without the watermark was a status symbol among tech-savvy teenagers. These images were the visual escapism of the cubicle worker and the student alike. Windows into worlds that didn't exist, glowing silently behind the icons of the recycle bin and Internet Explorer, promising a calm, neon-lit serenity amidst the chaos of Windows. Number 36 is the browser toolbar infestation. Before browsers were streamlined and minimalist, they were often consumed by the parasite known as the toolbar. It started innocently. You downloaded a piece of free software, and in the installation wizard, you missed a small checkbox that said, "Install the Ask Jeeves toolbar." Suddenly, a thick grey band appeared at the top of your browser. Then came the Yahoo toolbar, then the Google toolbar, then a weather toolbar. For the non-tech savvy, often our parents, the browser window became a claustrophobic slot. Half the screen was occupied by rows of useless search boxes, weather icons, and buttons promising free smileys. It was a visual representation of digital clutter. Navigating the web felt like looking through a mail slot. Removing them was a surgical procedure, requiring deep dives into the Add Remove Programs menu, only for them to mysteriously reappear the next time you restarted the computer, like weeds growing through the cracks of your digital pavement. Number 37 decodes the language of text emoticons. Long before the standardized full-color emoji keyboard, emotion was conveyed through the creative arrangement of punctuation marks. This was an art of abstraction. We didn't send a yellow face with tears. We typed XD to signal uncontrollable laughter. We used OO to express confusion or shock, a face with one eye twitching. The :P was the universal sign of playfulness, a tongue sticking out to soften a sarcastic blow. There was a hierarchy of complexity, from the simple colon to the elaborate Japanese kaomoji style, like smalling or the sweat drop. These symbols required you to tilt your head or use your imagination to see the face. They became a dialect. You could tell how old someone was or what internet subculture they belonged to by whether they used the dash in their smiley face, the difference between smalling and colon. It was a simpler, rawer form of expression, where the tone of your voice was carried entirely by the shift key and the number row. Number 38 visits the browser MMORPG grind. For those who couldn't afford a subscription to World of Warcraft, or whose computers were too slow to run it, there was RuneScape. This was a massive multiplayer world that lived entirely inside a Java applet in your browser. The graphics were low poly and jagged. Characters looked like piles of geometric shapes. The game was defined by the grind. You would spend hours clicking on a single rock to mine ore, or standing by a river clicking on fishing spots, watching the same animation loop thousands of times to see a number go up. The chat box scrolling at the bottom was a marketplace of colored text. Cyan, Wave, selling lobsters 200 GP. It was a mesmerizing, repetitive second life. The world was huge, dangerous, and persistent. Stepping into the wilderness meant risking everything you owned. It was a place where patience was the only currency that mattered, and where a virtual cape could make you a celebrity among your peers in the school computer lab. Number 39 is the custom cursor trail. In the 2000s, the standard white arrow of the Windows mouse pointer felt too boring for a generation obsessed with customization. Enter the custom cursor. You could download packages that turned your pointer into a dinosaur, a slice of pizza, or a spinning yin-yang symbol. But the ultimate flex was the cursor trail. This feature, buried in the Windows settings, caused your mouse to leave a ghostly wake of copies behind it as it moved. It made the cursor look like it was moving at warp speed. More advanced users installed third-party software like Comet Cursor, which added particle effects, sparkles, flames, or bubbles that trailed your movement. It was visually noisy and often slowed the computer to a crawl, consuming precious RAM. Yet, we loved it. It turned the simple act of navigation into a performance. You would wiggle the mouse in circles just to watch the trail fan out like a peacock's tail, mesmerizing yourself with the digital traces. Number 40 concludes this batch with the Internet Cafe. Before high-speed internet was ubiquitous in every home, the Internet Cafe, or LAN center, was the sanctuary of the gamer. It was a dimly lit room that smelled of ozone, energy drinks, and stale snacks. Rows of high-end PCs lined the walls, bathed in the blue glow of LED fans. You paid by the hour, buying time on a plastic card or a slip of paper with a login code. This was where the LAN party lived. You weren't playing against faceless strangers, you were playing against the guy sitting 3 seats down. When you scored a headshot in Counter-Strike, you could hear the groan of defeat in the real world. It was a social club for the introverted. The soundscape was a cacophony of mouse clicks, mechanical keyboard clatter, and shouts of "Rush B!" It was a place where you could escape the lag of your home dial-up and experience the true speed of the fiber-optic future, shoulder to shoulder with your tribe. Welcome to the Nostalgia Archive. Tonight, we drift further into the past, revisiting the dawn of viral culture, the physical interfaces that defined our digital lives, and the specific anxieties of the early broadband era. Number 41 unearths the all-your-base phenomenon. Before memes were a recognized unit of culture, there was all-your-base a belong to us. It was the internet's first true inside joke, a flash animation born from the poorly translated dialogue of an obscure Sega Genesis game, Zero Wing. The video was a hypnotic montage of a robotic voice reciting broken English over a techno beat, while the phrase, "all your base are belong to us," was photoshopped onto street signs, cigarette packs, and blimps. It represented the internet's ability to take something meaningless and, through sheer collective repetition, turn it into a global language. To quote, it was a secret handshake. It signaled that you were part of the web culture, distinct from the offline world. It spread through forums and email forwards, a slow-moving viral wave that proved for the first time that the internet could create its own nonsensical folklore, completely baffling to anyone who hadn't seen the specific flash file that started it all. Number 42 traces the tactile click wheel. In a world of glass touchscreens that offer no resistance, the iPod click wheel stands as a monument to tactile feedback. It was the steering wheel of the 2000s music collection. The sensation was distinct, a smooth, matte plastic ring that you physically rubbed with your thumb. It didn't spin, yet it registered the circular motion with incredible precision, accompanied by a rapid, mechanical clicking sound from the device's internal speaker. Click, 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 click. The faster you spun your thumb, the faster the list scrolled. It was an interface that felt intuitive and organic, connecting your physical movement directly to the digital library. You could navigate it blindly, changing tracks in your pocket without ever looking at the screen. It turned the act of selecting a song into a physical fidget, a satisfying loop of motion and sound that made the device feel less like a computer and more like a crafted instrument. Number 43 remembers the "you wouldn't download a car" warning. If you watched a movie in the 2000s, you were subjected to the aggressive, gritty aesthetic of the anti-piracy public service announcement. The music was an intense, driving breakbeat that sounded like an action movie soundtrack. The text slammed onto the screen in a jagged, distressed font. You wouldn't steal a handbag, you wouldn't steal a television. And finally, the infamous line that became a generational joke: you wouldn't download a car. It was a stern attempt to equate file sharing with Grand Theft Auto. The irony, of course, was that this unskippable ad only punished the people who had legally purchased the DVD, forcing them to sit through the lecture, while the pirates, who had stripped the encryption, watched the movie instantly. It remains a piece of nostalgic propaganda, a symbol of the media industry's desperate, loud, and ultimately futile struggle to contain the digital tide. Number 44 captures the Numa Numa joy. Before the monetization of influencers and the polish of TikTok, viral fame was accidental and pure. This was epitomized by Gary Brolsma, known to the world as the Numa Numa guy. The video was simple, a webcam recording of a young man sitting in his chair, lip-syncing to the Romanian pop song Dragostea Din Te by Ozone. The lighting was poor, the resolution was low, but the energy was infectious. He pumped his fists and moved his eyebrows with a genuine, unself-conscious delight that captivated the world. There was no intro asking you to subscribe, no ring light, and no product placement. It was just a human being having fun with a computer. It represented the innocent Web 2.0 era, where we watched strangers not because they were celebrities, but because they were just like us, dancing alone in their rooms, illuminated by the glow of the monitor. Number 45 is the unregistered Hypercam 2 watermark. In the early days of YouTube, before capture cards and OBS Studio, recording your computer screen was a luxury. The tool of choice for the amateur was Hypercam 2. However, because most users were children who couldn't afford the license, thousands of tutorials and gaming videos were branded with a permanent, semi-transparent stamp in the top left corner. Unregistered Hypercam 2. It became part of the aesthetic of early internet knowledge. If you were watching a video on how to get unlimited coins in Club Penguin, or how to install a Minecraft texture pack, that watermark was almost certainly there. It was often accompanied by a soundtrack of 009 Sound System, Dreamscape, or Paralyzer by Finger 11, played through notepad tutorials where the creator typed out instructions because they didn't have a microphone. That watermark was the badge of the grassroots creator, the hallmark of a video made for passion, not profit. Number 46 views. The Windows XP Bliss Hill. The most viewed photograph in human history is not a picture of a war, a celebrity, or a wonder of the world. It is the default wallpaper of Windows XP, titled Bliss. The image depicts a rolling, impossibly green hill in Sonoma County, California, set against a vibrant blue sky dotted with fluffy cumulus clouds. For a decade, this was the view from our digital window. It was so saturated and perfect that many assumed it was a computer render, but it was a real photo, unedited. It represented the optimism of the OS, clean, bright, and friendly. We spent countless hours staring at that hill while organizing icons or waiting for programs to load. It was the calm backdrop to our digital frustration and discovery. Even now, seeing that specific shade of green evokes a Pavlovian response, a sense of starting up, and the memory of the distinct ta-da chime that welcomed us to the desktop. Number 47 endures. The Jamster ringtone commercials. There was a dark period in television and internet advertising dominated by the crazy frog. In the mid-2000s, companies like Jamster aggressively marketed downloadable ringtones. These weren't just songs. They were annoying, high-pitched animations designed to be viral. The crazy frog, a blue amphibian making engine noises, was inescapable. The commercials would run on loop on music channels and pop up as banners on every website. Text frog to 75555 was the command. These subscriptions were notorious for draining prepaid credit, charging weekly fees for a monochromatic pixel art wallpaper or a polyphonic version of a chart-topping song. It was the era of the ringtone economy, where having the right sound play when your flip phone rang was a crucial social signal, a way of proving you had the disposable income or your parents' permission to buy into the noisy, chaotic fad. Number 48 observes the bouncing DVD logo. When the movie ended or the teacher paused the educational film, the TV screen would turn black and a small, rectangular DVD video logo would begin to drift across the void. This was the unintentional screensaver of the classroom and the living room. It became a collective hypnotic game. The logo changed color every time it hit a wall, blue to yellow, yellow to red. But the true goal, the moment everyone was waiting for, was the corner hit. We watched with bated breath as the logo approached the exact intersection of two edges. Would it bounce perfectly into the corner, or would it miss by a pixel and drift away? When it finally hit the corner perfectly, a silent cheer would erupt in the room. It was a shared moment of zen, a meaningless triumph of geometry that kept us entertained during the downtime of the digital age. Number 49 is the Rickroll. No list of 2000s internet culture is complete without the ultimate bait and switch. Rickrolling was the practice of providing a hyperlink that claimed to be relevant to the conversation, a leaked game trailer, a news story, or a secret code, but actually redirected the user to the music video for Rick Astley's 1987 hit, Never Gonna Give You Up. It began on 4chan as a variation of duck rolling, but exploded into the mainstream. It was a prank that relied on the inherent curiosity of the web surfer. The frustration of being tricked was immediately replaced by the catchy synth-pop intro and Astley's smooth dance moves. It was a harmless, universal prank that transcended language barriers. It taught us to hover over links before clicking, to check the URL, and to never fully trust a stranger on a forum. It was the internet's way of reminding you that you were never quite in control of your journey. Number 50 concludes this batch with the era of BitTorrent. As file sizes grew and the limitations of direct downloads became apparent, the internet decentralized. BitTorrent changed the physics of downloading. It introduced us to a new vocabulary, seeds and peers. You weren't downloading a file from a server, you were downloading tiny fragments of it from hundreds of other people simultaneously. Watching a torrent client like uTorrent or Azurius was like watching a hive at work. You would stare at the health bar, praying for more seeders, people who had the full file and were sharing it, and cursing the leechers, those who took without giving back. It was a moral economy. If you didn't seed after you finished downloading, you were considered a parasite of the community. It was the wild west of data, where getting a movie or a discography meant joining a swarm of strangers, all working together to piece together the digital puzzle, 1 kilobyte at a time. Number 51 plays the symphony of polyphonic ringtones. Before phones could play actual MP3 recordings, there was the polyphonic era. This was the bridge between the harsh, singular beeps of the 1990s and the high-fidelity audio of the smartphone. A polyphonic ringtone could play multiple notes at once, synthesizing a complex, instrumental version of a pop song. It turned the latest chart toppers by 50 Cent or Britney Spears into frantic, layered MIDI arrangements that sounded like a video game orchestra. Buying these tones was a ritual in itself. You would scan the back pages of a gaming magazine or a tabloid, finding a grid of codes, and text a premium number to have the data sent to your Nokia. Hearing that tinny, synthesized melody erupt from a pocket in a silent classroom was a status symbol. It announced not only that you had a phone, but that you had the disposable credit to customize it, turning your incoming calls into a public broadcast of your musical taste, rendered in glorious 16-bit harmony. Number 52 investigates the ambiguity of the Facebook poke. In the earliest days of Facebook, when the interface was clean blue and white, and membership was restricted to university students, there was a feature that baffled and obsessed us: the poke. It was a simple interaction, a finger icon next to a user's name. When you clicked it, the recipient received a notification: you have been poked. That was it. There was no message, no context, and no explanation. It became a silent language of its own. Was it a flirtatious nudge, a friendly wave, an annoyance? It sparked poke wars, where two friends would relentlessly poke each other back and forth for weeks, a digital game of tag that required zero typing but constant attention. It was a form of low-stakes intimacy, a way to touch someone in the digital realm without the vulnerability of having to actually say anything. It was the ultimate expression of passive social media interaction, a button that said, "I am thinking about you," without requiring the effort of a thought. Number 53 visualizes the iPod silhouette commercials. If the 2000s had a visual anthem, it was the Apple iPod advertising campaign. These commercials were a masterclass in minimalism and energy. They featured jet-black silhouettes of people dancing against violently bright, solid-colored backgrounds: neon pink, lime green, electric blue. The only detail visible was the stark, white wires of the earbuds trailing down to the white iPod in their hand. Accompanied by the garage rock energy of Jet's "Are You Gonna Be My Girl?" or the techno thump of Daft Punk, these ads sold a lifestyle of uninhibited freedom. They didn't focus on the gigabytes or the battery life. They focused on the feeling of being lost in music. Seeing those white cables became a cultural signifier in the real world. If you saw someone on the bus with white wires, you knew they were part of the club. The ads turned a piece of technology into a fashion accessory, defining the cool aesthetic of the decade with 2 colors and a catchy riff. Number 54 remembers the muscle memory of T9 texting. Before QWERTY keyboards and touchscreens, typing was a mathematical act performed on a numeric keypad. T9, text on 9 keys, was the predictive text software that allowed us to communicate. You didn't tap a letter, you tapped a number that corresponded to a group of letters. To type hello, you pressed 4, 3, 5, 5, 6. The phone would guess the word you wanted. This created a specific kind of dexterity. We could type entire paragraphs without ever looking at the phone, hiding the device under a school desk or in a hoodie pocket, our thumbs flying over the raised rubber buttons by pure instinct. There was a distinct tactile rhythm to it, the click, click, click of the flip phone keys. It also created a unique dialect of errors. If T9 guessed the wrong word, you might accidentally send book instead of cool, creating textonyms that required a follow-up message to explain. It was a skill that required physical practice, a thumb gymnastics routine that every teenager mastered. Number 55 recalls the shock of happy tree friends. The early internet was a minefield of deceptive content, and nothing illustrated this better than the Flash cartoon series Happy Tree Friends. The aesthetic was disarmingly cute. Pastel colors, storybook visuals, and characters that looked like adorable woodland creatures. A yellow rabbit, a blue moose, a pink chipmunk. They hummed a catchy, innocent theme song. You would watch it, perhaps expecting a children's show or a simple comedy. Then, within seconds, the violence would erupt. It was extreme, graphic, and gratuitous, contrasting the sugary visuals with cartoon gore. Eyes would pop out, limbs would be severed, and the characters would meet gruesome ends, all while the cheerful music continued. It was the ultimate screamer bait and switch, often shared among friends to gauge their reaction. It represented the subversive nature of Web 2.0 animation, where the lack of censorship allowed creators to twist familiar, safe imagery into something shocking, purely for the thrill of the unsuspecting viewer. Number 56 is the ritual of safely remove hardware. In the era of the USB flash drive, or thumb drive, we lived in fear of data corruption. The operating system instilled a deep superstition in us. You could not simply pull the stick out of the computer. You had to ask for permission. You would navigate to the bottom right of the taskbar, find the small icon of a grey plug with a green checkmark, and click Safely Remove Hardware. You then waited, breathless, for the balloon notification that said, it is now safe to remove your device. Pulling the drive out before this message felt like defusing a bomb. We were convinced that doing so would scramble our homework or delete our MP3s forever. It was a moment of digital bureaucracy, a required pause that forced us to respect the invisible processes of the machine. Even today, when modern systems handle this better, the anxiety remains, a phantom limb of a time when the physical connection between data and device felt fragile and temperamental. Number 57 replays. The end of the world flash video. Before YouTube, viral videos were shared as standalone flash files, .swf, and few were as quoted as the end of the world. It was a crude animation featuring stick figures and low-quality sound, depicting the Earth being threatened by meteors. The dialogue was a bizarre phonetic caricature of accents. Okay, so here is the Earth. Round. Damn, that is a sweet Earth, you might say. The catchphrases, fires are missiles, and but I am tired, seeped into the vernacular of middle schools everywhere. It was quoted endlessly in hallways and lunchrooms. The humor was absurd, random, and fast-paced, defining the chaotic comedic sensibility of the early 2000s web. It wasn't about high production value. It was about the shared experience of quoting the same obscure script, a secret code that identified you as someone who spent their free time on sites like Albino Black Sheep or eBound's World. Number 58 is the MSN Now Playing status. Social media is often about performance, and on MSN Messenger, the performance was musical. The Show What I'm Listening To feature was a toggle that automatically updated your personal status message with the track currently playing in your Windows Media Player or iTunes. This turned your music consumption into a public statement. You would carefully curate your playlist, not just for your own enjoyment, but for the audience of your contact list. You might put on a cool, obscure indie band to impress a crush, or switch to an emotional ballad to signal that you were sad, hoping someone would ask why. You would leave the song on loop so it stayed visible for hours. Conversely, the panic of accidentally leaving a guilty pleasure song playing, like a cheesy pop track or a Disney soundtrack, was real. It was a passive broadcast of identity, a way of shouting, "This is who I am," through the metadata of an MP3 file. Number 59 feels the snap of the Game Boy Advance SP. Handheld gaming in the 90s was plagued by a lack of visibility. You had to sit under a lamp or in the back seat of a car during the day to see the screen. The Game Boy Advance SP changed everything with one feature, the front light, and later, backlight. Suddenly, we could play under the covers. But the true satisfaction was the form factor. It was a clamshell design. When you were done playing Pokemon Ruby or Metroid Fusion, you didn't just press a button, you folded the device in half. The snap it made when closing was distinct, a sharp plastic clack that signified game over. It was tactile and final. The device was small, square, and fit perfectly in a pocket. The metallic paint jobs, silver, flame, red, cobalt blue, scratched easily, carrying the battle scars of the playground. That snap was the sound of a session ending, a physical punctuation mark on your digital adventure. Number 60 concludes this batch with the dialect of Leet speak. In the gaming lobbies and hacker forums of the 2000s, a new language emerged. Leet, or 1337, speak. It was a cipher that replaced letters with numbers and symbols to bypass swear filters or simply to denote status. E became 3, A became 4, T became 7, and O became 0. To type hacker was to type H4X0R. It was an exclusionary dialect. If you couldn't read it, you were a newbie. Words like pwned, derived from a typo of owned, became standard terminology for dominating an opponent in a game. It required a mental translation key. Writing in LeetSpeak was a way of signaling that you were tech-savvy, that you spent enough time online to know the secret code. It appeared in usernames, XX Sephiroth Enkscore XX, in clan tags, and in the chat boxes of Counter-Strike, a digital hieroglyphic system that defined the elite subculture of the wired generation. Welcome to the Nostalgia Archive. Tonight, we resume our exploration of the 2000s, delving into the sounds that defined our downtime, the primitive ancestors of modern memes, and the metallic snap of the most iconic phone ever made. Number 61 begins with the PlayStation 2 startup sound. For a generation of gamers, this was the sound of anticipation and fear. When you pressed the power button, the room filled with a deep, ethereal synth drone, accompanied by rising towers of white mist in a dark void. It sounded like a monolith awakening. The visuals were dynamic. The number of white towers actually corresponded to the amount of data saved on your memory card, a subtle detail few noticed at the time. But the nostalgia is laced with anxiety. As the sound swelled, you waited for the PlayStation 2 logo to appear. If the disc was scratched or unreadable, the blue mist would suddenly turn a hellish, deep red, accompanied by a harsh, hollow sound effect. This was the red screen of death. That transition from the soothing blue startup to the red screen of failure was a visceral, emotional drop, a moment of pure dread that meant your game night was over before it began. Number 62 examines the ORLY, OW. Before the internet had a standardized language for memes, before we even called them memes, there were image macros. One of the titans of this era was a snowy owl with a bizarrely expressive face. The photograph, captured by nature photographer John White, showed the bird with its head cocked and eyes wide in apparent disbelief. Internet users slapped the text, ORLY? Oh, really? In bold white font across the bottom. It was the sarcasm of the forum era distilled into a single JPEG. It spawned a conversation. Someone would reply with a different owl saying, YARLY? Yeah, really. And another with, no, why? No way. It was primitive, innocent humor. It represented a time when a single image could dominate the culture of message boards for years, a universal shorthand for calling out someone's obvious statement without typing a single word of your own. Number 63 holds the Motorola Razr V3. In the mid-2000s, the mobile phone was not a black glass slab, it was a piece of jewelry. The Razr was the status symbol. It was impossibly thin for the time, made of cool anodized aluminium that felt premium in the hand. The keypad was a flat, chemically etched sheet of metal that glowed with a futuristic blue light. But the true satisfaction was the hang-up. Ending a call on a smartphone is a passive, anticlimactic tap on a screen. Ending a call on a Razr was a statement. You snapped the phone shut with a sharp, metallic clack. It was a punctuation mark. You could snap it angrily to emphasize an argument or casually to show disinterest. It was a fidget toy for the socially anxious, a device that prioritized style over function. And for a few years, it was the coolest object in the world to pull out of a denim pocket. Number 64 converses with Smarter Child. Long before Siri, Alexa, or ChatGPT, there was Smarter Child. This was an AIM, AOL Instant Messenger bot that lived in your buddy list. For a lonely teenager on a Tuesday night, Smarter Child was often the only one online. You could ask it for the weather, movie times, or stock quotes, but nobody used it for that. We used it to test the limits of artificial intelligence. We insulted it, confessed secrets to it, and tried to trick it into saying something inappropriate. The bot had a distinct, sassy personality. If you swore at it, it would refuse to talk to you for a few minutes. It was our first collective experiment in human-computer interaction, a primitive Turing test conducted in a chat window. It taught us the uncanny feeling of talking to a machine that was pretending to be a person, bridging the gap between a tool and a friend. Number 65 remembers the Star Wars kid. In 2003, a Canadian high school student filmed himself wielding a golf ball retriever like a dual-sided lightsaber, imitating the moves of Darth Maul. He left the tape at school, where it was found, digitized, and uploaded to the internet without his knowledge. It became one of the first truly global viral videos. At the time, we laughed. The video was remixed with lightsaber effects and John Williams music. But looking back, this moment represents the loss of innocence for the web. It was the first major instance of cyberbullying on a global scale. The subject wasn't a willing participant in his fame. He was a victim of the internet's voracious appetite for content. It marks the moment we realized that privacy was evaporating, and that a private moment of joyful play could be broadcast to millions, turning a regular person into a digital caricature forever. Number 66 is the red glow of the optical mouse. There was a specific technological transition in the 2000s that changed the lighting of our bedrooms, the death of the trackball mouse and the rise of the optical sensor. If you flipped a mouse over in 1999, you found a heavy rubber ball. By 2004, you found a blindingly bright red LED light. This light was always on. In a dark room, the mousepad was bathed in a crimson glow. If you lifted the mouse, it acted like a flashlight, casting a red beam across the desk. We all did the same thing. We stared directly into the laser, despite warnings not to, mesmerized by the intensity of the light. It was a signifier of modernity. That red glow meant precision. It meant you didn't have to clean lint off the rollers anymore. It was the ambient lighting of the late-night gaming session, a harsh, unwavering red eye staring up from the mousepad. Number 67 loops. Badger, badger, badger. The humor of the 2000s web was defined by absurdity and repetition, and nothing captured this better than the flash animation by Mr. Weeble. It was a hypnotic loop of dancing badgers doing calisthenics, accompanied by a rhythmic, chanting electronic song. Badger, 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 punctuated by mushroom, mushroom, and the occasional snake. There was no plot, there was no punchline. It was just an endless cycle of nonsense. Yet, we watched it for hours. We showed it to our friends. It burrowed into the collective consciousness. It was earworm culture, content designed to be annoying and catchy in equal measure. It proved that on the internet, you didn't need a narrative to be entertaining. You just needed a funny animal, a techno beat, and the ability to loop a file infinitely until the viewer's brain melted into submission. Number 68 enters the codec nightmare. Before streaming video was standardized, downloading a movie file was a gamble. You would spend days downloading an .avi file, only to open it and find a black screen or hear no audio. This was the era of the missing codec. Windows Media Player would throw up a cryptic error message, sending you on a quest to find the right decoder. We installed shady codec packs, like the K-Lite codec pack, which were bundles of drivers that promised to play any file format. These installations were risky. They often conflicted with each other or brought adware along for the ride. It was a technical barrier to entry that made watching a video feel like a hacking achievement. When the video finally played, video and audio in sync, it felt like a miracle of software engineering, a hard-won victory against the fragmentation of digital media formats. Number 69 visits the $1 million homepage. In 2005, a student named Alex Chu had a simple, brilliant idea to pay for his university education. Sell a website consisting of 1 million pixels for $1 per pixel. It was the ultimate capitalist experiment of the early web. The result was a chaotic, colorful quilt of capitalism. Advertisers bought 10 by 10 blocks, resulting in tiny, pixelated logos for online casinos, ringtone sites, and get-rich-quick schemes, all screaming for attention on a single page. It looked like a digital billboard that had exploded. It was a snapshot of the internet's commercial landscape at that exact moment. You would hover your mouse over the tiny images to see the tooltips, exploring this dense map of advertisements. It was a phenomenon that could only have happened then, a novelty that made a millionaire out of a kid and proved that on the internet, attention was the only currency that mattered. Number 70 concludes this batch with the parental advisory sticker on iTunes. When music moved from physical CDs to digital files, the parental advisory, explicit content label made the jump with it. On the iTunes store, this was denoted by a small, red, explicit tag next to a song title. For a teenager with a shared family computer, this tag was a beacon. It was the forbidden fruit. Downloading the clean version felt like a defeat. You were missing the artistic integrity of the curse words. We developed strategies to hide these files, renaming them or burying them in nested folders so our parents wouldn't see the red tag. That tiny red rectangle was a battleground of adolescent rebellion. It represented the tension between the freedom of the internet, where you could find anything, and the supervision of the household, marking the songs that were cool with a scarlet letter that made us want them even more. Number 71 is the blue screen of death. In the Windows XP era, your digital life hung by a thread, and that thread could snap at any moment. The BSOD was not just an error message, it was a violent interruption. One moment, you were writing an essay or playing a game. The next, the entire monitor was flooded with a stark, royal blue background and cryptic white text. A problem has been detected and Windows has been shut down to prevent damage to your computer. The font was monospaced and cold. It listed hexadecimal memory addresses that meant nothing to you, but felt incredibly serious. There was no cancel button, no way to save your work. The computer had simply ceased to exist as a functional tool. The only remedy was the hard reset, holding down the physical power button on the tower for 5 seconds until the machine choked into silence, followed by the breathless wait to see if it would turn back on. Number 72 remembers the Linkin Park anime music video. If you searched for Linkin Park Numb or In the End on early video sharing sites, you rarely found the official music video. Instead, you found a montage of Dragon Ball Z or Naruto fights, synced perfectly to the angst-ridden nu metal tracks. The AMV anime music video was a grassroots art form. Editors would meticulously cut scenes of Vegeta powering up or Sasuke brooding, timing the punches and explosions to the crashing drums of Chester Bennington's vocals. It was a cross-pollination of two massive subcultures, anime fans and rock fans. The video quality was usually terrible, compressed, pixelated footage with hard-coded subtitles from the original Japanese broadcast. Yet, these videos were emotionally potent. They stripped the context from the show and the song, combining them into a raw, high-octane expression of teenage intensity that racked up millions of views from kids who felt exactly the same way. Number 73 destroys with the desktop destroyer. Sometimes, the computer was a source of such frustration that we needed to smash it. Since we couldn't destroy our expensive hardware, we downloaded stressrelief.exe, also known as Desktop Destroyer. It was a simple overlay program that treated your current screen as a canvas for destruction. You could select a hammer and crack your browser window, the sound of shattering glass echoing through the speakers. You could take a machine gun and riddle your homework with bullet holes, or use a flamethrower to scorch your icons until they turned black. Then, looking at the ruin you had created, you would press Escape, and the screen would wipe clean, the damage instantly repaired. It was a digital stress ball, a harmless way to act out the violent impulses generated by slow internet speeds and crashing software. Number 74 marches with the Techno Viking. In the age before choreographed TikTok dances, viral fame came from capturing raw, inexplicable reality. The Techno Viking video is a perfect artifact of this. Shot at the Fuck Parade in Berlin in 2000, it features a tall, muscular man with a beard and a Mjolnir pendant who commands the street with sheer physical charisma. He grabs a rowdy dancer, points a warning finger, and then, as the techno beat drops, begins to march and dance with an intense, stoic seriousness. We didn't know who he was. We didn't know why he was so intense. He became a mythical figure, a meme based on respect and fear rather than mockery. The shaky camera work and the graininess of the footage added to the legend, making it feel like we were witnessing a modern-day Norse god descending to rave in the streets. Number 75 wears the USB lanyard. When the USB flash drive became the standard for carrying data, it wasn't just a tool, it was an accessory. To ensure we didn't lose these small, expensive sticks of plastic, we wore them around our necks. The lanyard was a staple of the high school and university wardrobe. It was usually branded, given away by a bank, a university orientation, or a tech company. The flash drive dangled at chest height, bouncing against your sternum as you walked. It signaled that you had work to do, that you were a carrier of important files. It was a nerd chic aesthetic. There was a satisfying fidget factor too. You would twirl the lanyard around your finger, or click the cap of the USB drive on and off while bored in conversation. It turned data storage into a piece of jewelry, keeping your essays and MP3s literally close to your heart. Number 76 fights with Xiao Xiao. Flash animation was often crude, but the Xiao Xiao series introduced a fluidity that was mesmerizing. These were stick figure fight scenes, but they were choreographed with the precision of a Hong Kong action movie. The stick figures didn't just move, they had weight and momentum. They performed wall runs, slow motion kicks, and intricate combos. The sound design was a library of thwack and whoosh noises that became iconic. One particular entry, Xiao Xiao number 3, was a legendary boss fight that every kid in the computer lab watched. It proved that you didn't need realistic graphics to convey action. You just needed perfect timing and imagination. It inspired a generation of animators to open Macromedia Flash and start drawing their own stick figures, dreaming of creating the next great digital brawl. Number 77 visits the Candy Mountain. The humor of the mid-2000s often veered into the surreal, and Charlie the Unicorn was the peak of this absurdity. The video featured crudely animated, cutout-style unicorns. Charlie, the cynical voice of reason, is pestered by two high-pitched, energetic companions to go to Candy Mountain. The repetition of the dialogue, "Charlie, Charlie, we're going to Candy Mountain," was designed to be annoying. It was an endurance test of a video. The payoff was dark and bizarre. Charlie loses a kidney. It was quoted incessantly. If your name was Charlie, your life became a living hell of people screeching "Charlie" at you. It represented the random era of internet comedy, where non sequiturs and weird voices were the height of humor. creating a shared vocabulary of nonsense that baffled anyone over the age of 25. Number 78. Styles the scene haircut. The internet of the 2000s had a physical manifestation in the real world, the scene aesthetic. This was the uniform of the Myspace generation. The defining feature was the hair. It was dyed jet black, bleach blonde, or neon pink, often with coontails, striped extensions. But the architecture was key. The fringe had to be swept aggressively across the forehead, covering one eye completely. It was hair that required constant maintenance. You were always flipping your head to see, or using a flat iron to ensure it was pin straight. It was a look that said, "I live online." It was designed to look good in a high-angle selfie, not necessarily in real life. It was a tribal marker. If you saw someone with that haircut at the mall, you knew they listened to the same bands, used the same websites, and understood the same moody digital culture as you. Number 79. Buffers with Real Player. Before video players were integrated smoothly into browsers, we had Real Player. It was a piece of software that seemed to struggle with its own existence. To watch a video clip, you had to launch this heavy, clunky application. The interface was a brushed metal nightmare, but the defining experience was the buffering bar. Buffering, 15%, 32%. It would storm, it would stutter. The video would play for 3 seconds, looking like a moving watercolor painting due to the heavy compression, and then freeze again to load more data. The audio often sounded like it was coming from underwater. Real Player was a lesson in compromise. It gave us access to video on the internet, but it made us work for it, forcing us to stare at a loading status more often than the content itself. Number 80 touches the Salad Fingers rust. If Happy Tree Friends was about shock, Salad Fingers was about creeping dread. Created by David Firth, this Flash series was a masterpiece of atmospheric horror. The protagonist was a green, hunched figure with elongated, spindle-like fingers. He spoke in a breathless, trembling voice about the texture of rusty spoons. The animation was scratchy and unsettling, set in a desolate, grey wasteland. It wasn't jump scare scary, it was make your skin crawl scary. We watched it in dark rooms, huddled around monitors, disturbed but unable to look away. It felt like stumbling upon a forbidden tape. It showed that the internet could be a place for genuine, avant-garde art, strange, uncomfortable, and deeply psychological, that would never have been allowed on television. Number 81 listens to The Baritone of Chocolate Rain. In 2007, the internet was captivated by a song that defied explanation. Tay Zonde, a graduate student with a boyish face, stood in front of a microphone in a simple room, wearing a white t-shirt. When he opened his mouth, a voice of impossible depth emerged. Chocolate Rain. The contrast between his youthful appearance and his resonant, bass-heavy vocals was jarring and mesmerizing. But the charm lay in the details. A text overlay would appear on the screen. "I move away from the mic to breathe in." And he did. It was a moment of raw, unpolished authenticity. The song itself was a looping, synth-heavy track with cryptic lyrics about history and systemic racism. But the internet embraced it as a surreal masterpiece. It was a viral video that didn't try to be cool. It was earnest, strange, and unintentionally iconic, proving that talent and memeability were often the same thing. Number 82 flips open the slide-out keyboard. While the BlackBerry had its buttons on the front, the true cool factor belonged to the phones that transformed. The T-Mobile Sidekick or the LG Roomba concealed their primary function. To text, you had to perform a mechanical ritual, pushing the screen up or to the side with a satisfying spring-loaded thwack. This revealed a full QWERTY keyboard hidden like a secret weapon. Holding the phone horizontally with two hands, using your thumbs to type, became the defining posture of the mid-2000s teenager. It felt like holding a game controller. The keys were often small, hard bubbles of plastic that made a distinct clicking sound. This form factor bridged the gap between the phone and the computer. It was a device designed not for talking, but for the rapid-fire exchange of instant messages, allowing you to type LOL and BRB with a speed and precision that T9 could never match. Number 83 winces at the golden age of fail blog. Before cringe was a genre, there was fail. This was the internet's home for schadenfreude. The aesthetic was specific. A low-resolution video, often shot on a shaky camcorder, stamped with the bold, yellow, failblog.org watermark. The content was simple physics. A skateboarder hitting a railing, a gymnast missing a mat, or a cat misjudging a jump. We didn't watch for the success, we watched for the inevitable, painful conclusion. It was the digital evolution of America's funniest home videos, but stripped of the laugh track and the host. It was raw reality. The word fail, stamped in impact font, over a picture of a car in a swimming pool, became a universal stamp of disapproval. It was a cynical, hilarious archive of human error that reminded us that no matter how cool you try to look, gravity was always waiting to humble you. Number 84 erupts with the Diet Coke and Mentos geyser. This was the science experiment that defined the early YouTube era. It was the perfect viral recipe, two common household items that, when combined, created chaos. The videos were always set in backyards or driveways. The camera would be set back a safe distance. The scientist, usually a teenager in cargo shorts, would drop a roll of Mentos mints into a 2-liter bottle of soda and sprint away. The result was a violent brown pillar of foam shooting 20 feet into the air. It was pure spectacle. It didn't require CGI or high production values. It was practical effects for the masses. It inspired a wave of copycats, leaving sticky puddles of wasted soda on driveways across the world. It was a moment of collective discovery, where we all learned a useless, messy, and delightful fact of chemistry together. Number 85 chooses between the Mac and the PC. Advertising in the 2000s was defined by a white void and two men. The Get a Mac campaign turned the computer wars into a sitcom. On the right stood PC, a man in a stuffy, ill-fitting suit representing the crashes, viruses, and spreadsheets of Windows. On the left stood Mac, a relaxed figure in a hoodie and jeans, representing creativity, ease, and coolness. These ads didn't talk about specs or processor speeds. They talked about identity. They told you that buying a computer was a declaration of who you were. Were you a boring office drone, or were you a creative artist? The gentle guitar strum that opened every spot became a Pavlovian trigger. It was a masterclass in branding that successfully framed the narrative of the decade, convincing a generation that the tool you used was as important as the work you created with it. Number 86 zooms in on the dramatic chipmunk. In 2007, a 5-second video clip became the visual language for shock. The footage showed a prairie dog, misidentified as a chipmunk, in a Japanese television show. The camera captures the animal turning its head sharply to look at the lens with a piercing, stunned expression. But what made it a legend was the audio. The internet added a melodramatic orchestral sting, dun dun dun, synced perfectly with the animal's turn. It was a masterpiece of timing. It was the ultimate reaction GIF before GIFs were mainstream. It was used to punctuate forum threads, MSN conversations, and email chains. It didn't matter what the shocking news was. Posting the dramatic chipmunk was the only appropriate response. It was a microdose of drama, a perfect loop of suspense that never resolved, freezing that tiny animal in a state of eternal surprise. Number 87 uncovers the deception of Lonely Girl 15. In 2006, YouTube was still a place of perceived truth. We believed that the people talking to their webcams were real. Enter Bree, a quirky, homeschooled teenager who posted video diaries under the username Lonely Girl 15. She spoke about her strict parents, her weird religion, and her crush on her friend Daniel. Millions tuned in, emotionally invested in her unfolding life. Theories ran wild. Was she in a cult? Was she in danger? Then, the truth broke. Bree was an actress named Jessica Rose, and the entire channel was a scripted fiction project. The revelation was a seismic shock. It was the moment the internet lost its innocence. We realized that the vlog, the most intimate form of digital storytelling, could be a lie. It was the precursor to every ARG, alternate reality game, and influencer scandal that followed, teaching us to always question the reality behind the lens. Number 88 here's the Unreal Announcer. For players of Unreal Tournament, Quake, or Dota, positive reinforcement came in the form of a demonic, echoing voice. This was not a polite narrator. It was a hype man for violence. When you strung together a series of eliminations, the game would reward you with a deep, guttural shout that shook the speakers. Double kill, multi-kill, and the holy grail, monster kill. The voice was aggressive, drenched in reverb and bass. It became the internal monologue of the gamer. Hearing godlike was a rush of dopamine that no high-score screen could match. It turned the chaotic, fast-paced action of the arena shooter into a sport with its own commentary track. Even today, if you hear the words headshot, you likely hear it in that specific growling tone, a phantom echo of late-night LAN parties. Number 89 tries on the shoes video. The internet of the 2000s loved a specific brand of deadpan, absurdist drag, and Liam Kyle Sullivan's Shoes was the anthem. The music video featured a character named Kelly, a teenage girl with a blonde wig and an attitude, singing a repetitive synth-pop song about her only desire, shoes. The lyrics were banal yet hypnotic. Shoes, 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 oh my god, shoes. The video was a skit about materialism and family arguments, filled with quotable insults like betch. It was viral comedy that relied on the bizarre. It wasn't a joke with a setup and punchline. The joke was the existence of the video itself. It spread through high schools like wildfire. "Let's get some shoes" became a standard phrase. It was a prime example of the viral music video era, where a catchy beat and a weird character could dominate the cultural conversation for months. Number 90 concludes this batch with the spinning beach ball of death. While Windows users feared the blue screen, Mac users feared the beach ball. This was the cursor that replaced the arrow when the system was thinking or dying. It was a small, rainbow-colored pinwheel that spun hypnotically. In the beginning, it was a sign of patience. But as the seconds ticked by and the spinning didn't stop, it became a sign of doom. The colourful, cheerful design mocked your panic. You couldn't click anything. You couldn't save your GarageBand project or your iMovie edit. You were trapped in the loop. It was the wait cursor of the creative class. A beautiful, vibrant reminder that no matter how sleek the aluminium chassis of your computer was, the software inside was still prone to freezing, leaving you staring at a spinning rainbow while your hard work evaporated into the ether. Welcome to the Nostalgia Archive. Tonight, we arrive at the end of our journey. we will be visiting the final artifacts of the 2000s internet, the last echoes of a time when the digital world was a destination, not a constant state of being. Number 91 plays The Keyboard Cat. In the lexicon of internet failure, there was no punctuation mark more effective than fatso, the orange tabby cat in a blue shirt. The video, filmed in the 1980s but unearthed for the web in 2007, featured the cat appearing to play an upbeat, jaunty tune on an electric keyboard. It became the universal play-off music for embarrassment. When a fail video ended, after the skateboarder crashed or the groom dropped the bride, the footage would cut to that grainy, low-quality clip of the cat's paws hitting the keys. The music was cheerful, almost mocking in its optimism. It took the sting out of the pain. It was a gentle reminder that failure was funny, that the internet was a circus, and that no matter how bad your mistake was, it could be smoothed over by a cat in a shirt playing a simple melody. It was the vaudeville hook of the digital age, dragging us off stage when we messed up. Number 92 sketches, The Troll Face. Before memes were polished, high-resolution images, they were crude drawings made in Microsoft Paint. The troll face, or cool face, was the king of this jagged aesthetic. Created by a DeviantArt user in 2008, it depicted a wrinkled, mischievous grin with squinted eyes and a massive jaw. It was the face of pure, chaotic intent. It represented the troll, the person who argued just to make you angry, the one who lured you into a trap for their own amusement. The drawing was ugly, asymmetrical and rough, which made it perfect. It didn't look like a corporate product, it looked like graffiti. Seeing that face at the end of a comic or a forum post was a signal that you had been had. It was the visual equivalent of a taunt, a symbol that defined the gleeful, anarchic spirit of an internet where everyone was anonymous and no one was safe from a prank. Number 93 dances to Peanut Butter Jelly Time. If you want to understand the randomness of the early 2000s, you must look at the dancing banana. This flash animation was the definition of random. It featured a pixelated banana moving back and forth to a compressed, distorted song by the Buckwheat Boys. It's peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time. There was no context, there was no joke, it was just a banana. Yet, it was everywhere. It appeared on Family Guy, it was referenced in schools. It was the screensaver on library computers. The audio quality was terrible, a crunchy, low bitrate loop that sounded like it was coming through a broken radio. It represented a time when we were easily amused, when the novelty of seeing anything animated on a screen was enough to capture our attention. It was a meme of pure joy, unburdened by irony or politics, just a fruit dancing in the void. Number 94 glows with the blue LED obsession. In the 2000s, the color of the future was blue. If you bought a piece of technology, a gaming PC, a router, a DVD player, or an external hard drive, it almost certainly had a blindingly bright blue LED light. This was the gamer aesthetic. We replaced the standard beige fans in our computer towers with translucent ones that glowed neon azure. We bought cold cathode tubes to light up the inside of our cases like aquariums. In a dark bedroom, these lights were intense enough to keep you awake. They pierced the darkness, casting long, eerie shadows across the floor. It was a visual language that separated the new tech from the old green and red indicators of the 90s. That piercing blue light was the beacon of the broadband age, a signal that your machine was powerful, custom, and relentlessly modern. Number 95 defends with Leave Britney Alone. In 2007, Chris Crocker sat in front of a webcam with a bedsheet hung as a backdrop and wept. The video was a raw, emotional plea to the media to stop harassing Britney Spears during her public breakdown. "Leave her alone!" he screamed, mascara running down his face. At the time, the internet mocked him. The video was remixed, parodied, and turned into a punchline. But looking back, it was a pivotal moment. It was one of the first times a creator broke the fourth wall of digital detachment, showing genuine, hysterical emotion for a celebrity. It blurred the line between the fan and the subject. It was a precursor to stan culture, a defense of the human being behind the tabloid headline. The low-quality audio, the sobbing, and the intense eye contact created a viral moment that was uncomfortable, unforgettable, and deeply human. Number 96 harvests the Farmville notification. As the decade closed, social media shifted from a place of expression to a place of obligation, and the harbinger of this change was a virtual farm. Farmville on Facebook wasn't just a game, it was a chore engine. It introduced the notification as a source of social guilt. Your crops are withering. John sent you a cow. Alice needs help with her barn. These messages cluttered our feeds and our inboxes. You would log in not because you wanted to play, but because you didn't want to let your digital strawberries die. It turned friendship into a resource management simulation. We found ourselves clicking on pixelated sheep at 2 a.m. because an algorithm told us to. It was the beginning of the gamification of our social lives, a colourful, addictive loop that proved we would do tedious work for free if it meant watching a progress bar go up. Number 97 smells. The blockbuster rental case. Before the instant gratification of streaming, movie night required a physical journey to the church of cinema. Blockbuster. The experience was multi-sensory. The store was bathed in bright, fluorescent light and carpeted in blue and yellow. But the specific nostalgia lies in the rental case. It was a white plastic box with a clear sleeve, often slightly cracked or yellowed with age. When you popped it open, there was a distinct smell, a mix of stale plastic, ozone, and the thousands of living rooms that disc had visited before yours. The disc itself was often scratched, requiring a cleaning ritual. You walked the aisles, judging movies solely by their covers, holding the physical weight of the entertainment in your hand. If the movie was sold out, you were out of luck. That scarcity made the rental feel valuable. You had to commit to your choice because you had driven there, paid for it, and had to return it by noon on Monday. Number 98 enters the computer room. In the 2000s, the internet had a physical location in the house. It did not follow us in our pockets. It lived in the computer room or the den. This was a specific sanctuary. It usually contained a large corner desk made of particle board, a comfortable but worn rolling chair, and the family PC. Going online meant physically leaving the rest of the family. You would sit in that room, often in the dark, illuminated only by the monitor. The isolation was part of the allure. It was a portal. When you walked out of that room, you were offline. You were disconnected. The boundary between the digital world and the real world was a doorway. We have since lost this architectural distinction, but for a decade, the computer room was the airlock where we donned our digital avatars and stepped into the void. Number 99 hears the silence of the disconnect. We began this list with the sound of connection, the modem's scream. It is fitting to remember the sound of the end. Disconnecting from the internet in the 2000s was a definitive act. In the early days, it was the physical click of the modem hanging up the phone line. But later, it was the software sounds. The heavy thud of signing out of AIM, the swinging door sound of a buddy leaving. The silence that followed was profound. The hum of the computer fan would suddenly seem louder. you were back in the room. The conversation was over. There was no always-on background hum of notifications. When you were done, you were done. That silence was the sound of privacy, of solitude, of a world where the internet was a place you visited for a while and then left behind to return to the quiet of real life. Number 100 is the Windows XP shutdown sound. And finally, we end with the lullaby of a generation. The session is over. You have closed your browser, you have saved your work, and you move the mouse to the bottom left corner. Start, turn off computer, turn off. The screen fades to grey. Then the 4 notes play. It is a descending melody, piano and strings, composed to sound like a machine falling asleep. Dun 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 dun. It is the sonic inverse of the startup. It signified release. It meant the homework was finished, the game was beaten, or the late-night chat had ended. The monitor would click and go black. The tower would power down with a descending whir of fans. The lights on the keyboard would extinguish. You were left in the darkness of your room, the silence returning. The digital day officially concluded. Good night.